Namaste. From the foothills of the Himalayas, namaste and welcome. So glad you could come and we could be together at this time. Today I want to speak about the failure of fear-based administration. In order to make peace with anyone, the first thing one has to do is to recognize some quality of goodness in the other person. Everyone contains some good qualities, and in order to build a bridge so that communication can be smooth and harmonious, one must recognize some good in the other person. The first thing that's necessary in order to communicate successfully is to establish a common ground of shared interests based on our oneness as a member of a global family. The more one focuses on negative qualities in the other, the more those qualities increase and the barriers to communication become more and more rigid. All wars begin in the minds of men, and the only way we can stop these wars is by purifying the mind. The mind has to be brought to the level of bliss consciousness, because without bliss, without inner contentment, without inner happiness, peace can never become permanent. The only way one can establish permanent peace on earth is by enabling the individuals to gain access to the state of pure consciousness. Pure consciousness is a state of eternal bliss consciousness, Sat-Chit Ananda. And by having access to this field, one can purify the negative tendencies in the world family. One must bring the mind to the field of pure consciousness on a regular basis. The larger the groups practicing together, the more the effect will be to neutralize the negative vibrations in the world. Fear-based administration can never bring the result of a permanent state of peace. Fear comes when we have lack of confidence, lack of security, a restless, worried mind, and this type of mental functioning produces unfavorable influences in the environment. When a large number of people are unhappy, tense, and producing unfavorable influences in the environment, the atmosphere is saturated with these tense influences. When tension increases beyond a certain limit, the atmosphere breaks into collective calamities. Individuals don't realize that ill feeling, harsh words, bad behavior actually adds to the destruction of peace in the world. Maharishi says in The Science of Being and the Art of Living, in his book, he says, all international conflicts are caused by the collective effect of tensions which individuals have released into the atmosphere. I'd like to read from Maharishi's book, The Science of Being and the Art of Living. The individual does not realize that by thought, speech, and action, he constantly emits an influence of hatred, building up tension, which at some point will break and return to him the effects which he has created around him. It is now time that those interested in world peace should attend to the peace of the individual. To try to solve the problem of international conflicts while ignoring the problem of the individual is a wholly inadequate attempt to establish world peace. If a crisis is created in Berlin, the minds of all statesmen turn to that city. If something happens in the Congo, their whole attention switches to the Congo. If there is fighting in the Himalayas, all their attention is directed there. Trying to solve these problems individually is exactly like trying to make a leaf healthy by spraying it with water instead of watering the root. By now, man should be wise enough to know that only by watering the root can the leaf be really helped. In their attempt to create world peace, the statesmen of the world should also by now be wise enough to adopt ways of bringing happiness and peace to the lives of individuals. It is tragic that with all the intelligence and sincerity spent in attempts to help people, hardly anything is done to improve the life of the individual from within. As long as statesmen remain ignorant of the possibility of improving the lives of individuals from within, and of thereby bringing them abundant peace, happiness, and creative intelligence, the problem of world peace will always be dealt with only on the surface, and the world will continue to suffer in cold and hot wars. History records the attempts of statesmen to establish lasting world peace. But because all attempts were made on the surface of international life and not on the level of the life of the individual, the problem of world peace continues to be a problem for every generation. The problem that we're facing in the world today is due to a breakdown of communication, and it's due to the collective tensions which have saturated the atmosphere all over the world. What we can do to contribute to alleviate this situation is to practice transcending, practice the Transcendental Meditation technique in very large groups, and practice the yogic flying technique in very large groups, and bring forward the feeling of inner bliss and happiness to counteract the negative stress and tensions which have been mounting in world consciousness for so long. This is what I wanted to share with you today. And I hope that we can all find a way to go deeply into our programs and meditate in groups so that the world atmosphere will be purified and so that this war will very quickly come to an end. Thank you for coming today, and Namaskar from the foothills of the Himalayas. Namaskar. Very, very best wishes to you. Namaskar. Best wishes.